Rambling with Khealos Day 2. I think I've got a better control on my selfie stick here. Welcome to Khealos' Gaming Table. I'm Khealos. On this channel I talk about tabletop RPGs, miniature war games, and today another rambling walk. Survived Day 2 here in Orlando. Wasn't too bad, all things considered. Tomorrow we have a bunch of VIPs flying in, so I get to shake hands, schmooze, maybe make some contacts, and then I get to work overnight tomorrow if the part for the server arrives. Well, technically it's for the power strip, but the it is what it is. Yeah, don't know how many of you actually watched the first video. I did have a lot of fun making it, at least up until the point that my phone died. Rambled on about Battletech and different things. Probably will do that again. We're chatting on Discord about various things, and one of the items was how I think it's the Inner Sphere Command Lance is the only place that you can get a Marauder right now, unless you get the Legendary Pack or you buy it from Ironwind Metals. I have played with and owned and assembled plenty of Ironwind Metals models. I would not wish that on an enemy at this point. That does not seem to be a lot of fun. If you need a whole bunch of extra tools to put your model together, and you're going to end up gluing your fingers together anyway, that's not for me. Not anymore. I can certainly appreciate the amount of effort that goes into it. I can appreciate the desire to have all those metal models. There's something to be said to, having a little bit of heft to it, but I'm lazy and I'm cheap, and I'll go with the plastics, and barring that, probably go with some of the 3D prints that I can get from friends. Modeling is one of the more fun aspects of the game for me. I lose a lot, mostly because my dice, I have two enemies, my dice and then my opponent. But I like showing off. While I'm not the greatest painter in the world, I'm pretty good. I've gotten lots of compliments on my work, so, I keep with it. What else? I've been working on a fantasy campaign. I've been working on it for a while. I can get bored sometimes and just sit down and start creating things, and get inspiration from all kinds of different places. It's actually kind of the other side of the mountain range in the last fantasy campaign that I ran. That one I started in, I think, 3rd edition. Bled over into 4th for a little bit, and then I had to retool the whole thing to fit it for Savage Worlds, and I ran that for several years, and that was a lot of fun. And essentially there was a big mountain range, and it was magically sealed. You couldn't get past it, and so this is going to be the other half. So I've been doing that. Drawing maps, writing fluff, fleshing out on some of the stuff that I'd worked on before that particular campaign ended many years ago. A lot of the work was already done, and it's kind of interesting finding all my old files, years after the fact, and wow, I actually wrote that. Sometimes that's a good thing, and then other times it's like, oh yeah, I actually did write that, and time to fix it. But yeah, we'll see. The gaming group that I presently have is all Battletech. I don't have any actual role-playing friends right now. I played it online a few times, but those groups just don't seem to last. Even with the luxury of being at home and online, numerous games got canceled for, a variety of reasons. Real life crops up, so, that happens. That's the downside. When I was younger, most people were single, no kids, most had some sort of a day job, and then, you're able to escape and game at night. Yeah, but as you get older, that whole adulting thing starts taking over, and you get a family, you get a career. Some people have kids, and then, something's got to go. And that's usually gaming, although once you're able to get back into it, usually you can at least squeeze out a game every couple of weeks, once a month, something like that. But, life happens, and something's got to give, and usually it's, something like that. And do you find I'm a control freak, which is why I usually, when I run campaign in whatever the setting is, I will go ahead and do most of the world building, because I like to have control over my worlds. Even in Star Wars, I created a whole sector that basically I had complete control over. Sure, there was the Empire, sure, there were the Rebels, and Jedi and all of that, but I tried my best not to have to include too many other things that I didn't actually have a hand in creating. Shadowrun was one of those games that, kind of hard to do that since it's based on Earth, and most of them are based out of Seattle, most of the games, but you can play in other states, other areas, other countries. But, you are kind of limited in a lot of aspects to the quote-unquote world building, because so much of it is already created. With a fantasy game that the fantasy setting that I created, sure, I begged, borrowed, and stole from other sources, rebranded, filed off the serial numbers, whatever the case is. But, you know what, in general, it was mine, and, even the best creators go ahead and borrow from other sources. And, Rome wasn't built in a day. People want to create, their own Middle Earth and all of that. And you got to remember, it took Tolkien, 20 years from the time that he got the Hobbit published until he got, the Lord of the Rings out. So, not everyone has 20 years to create an entire world, but you don't want to rush into it. And when I create worlds, I do it agnostically, or at least to the game system. I'm more concerned about creating the history, the maps, who lives in it, that kind of thing, as opposed to, what level fighter is this, or how powerful are the orcs, or whatever the case is. All that can be tailored to whatever system you end up playing with. And I've yet to meet anyone that actually plays a straight system without some sort of a house rule or some sort of a alteration or change, something to make the game flow better, or there's a mechanic they don't like, so they go ahead and update it, change it, whatever. And it's one of the big things that I do like about, in-person gaming. You play video games, sure, it might be beautiful, sure, it might be immersive, there might be a great story, but you're still going to be held to the confines of whatever's been programmed. And with a role-playing game, or something that you're playing in person, you certainly have the ability to, tweak things, make decisions off the cuff, adjudicate some sort of a rule, and so you can actually look it up or figure it out, and you don't have to, worry about some computer yelling at you. You can't do that. And at the same time, video games can be a bit nicer, because you don't have to worry about getting a group together, unless you're playing a multiplayer game or going on a raid or something. It's one of the reasons that, so many games are popular. It's, you don't actually have to get a group together. But I really do miss in-person gaming. There's just, it was such a big part of my childhood and into my early adulthood, you know, getting together with friends every week, getting pizza, sitting around a table, rolling dice, swapping stories, and just having a good old time. I'm hoping to be able to do that again. You know, maybe not the all-nighters that we used to pull. More than once we would show up at somebody's house as the sun was setting, and depending upon how the night went, we would leave when the sun's coming up. More than once I had to go to work and get some sort of an energy drink or something to get me through it, because I invariably had to work Sundays and we always gamed Saturday night. But, you know, such is life. What else? I'm going to try and steer out of politics, just because I don't think anyone really cares about what my politics are. I really don't feel like sharing them. If you have specific questions, you know, you can reach out to me. You know, hit me up on Twitter, X, you know, whatever the hell it's called. I'm also on Blue Sky. I need to start posting there more, but it's a new social media site, and it's not like I have too much free time in general for just posting online. So yeah, I was thinking about, I think I'd mentioned that I've, you know, gamed more in the last, you know, close to 2 years than I have in probably 5 or 6, and I think it's awesome. And I love the Austin Battletech crowd. I mean, there was an Austin a Battletech Facebook group I was a part of, but nobody really posted too much. Somebody would occasionally post some news, you know, and then the Kickstarter happened, and then everyone started, you know, posting about that. And then one of the big event group organizers, Robin, she decided to go ahead and post, you know, hey, we're going to meet up here, we're going to play some Battletech. And, you know, her thought was, 4 or 5 people show up on a semi-regular basis, run a Khealos campaign, play some games, have some fun. And I didn't make it to the first session. But the second session, she wanted to go ahead and, you know, get more people involved, or, you know, try something else. So she decided to make it a clan-themed event and go with Circle of Equals. No, not Circle of Equals. Trial of Position, excuse me. Because, you know, if you're with the clans, it isn't just enough that you went through all the training, you can pilot your mech. In order for you to actually stay in your mech, you have to defeat somebody in combat. And that's a fellow mech warrior, fellow clanner. So we all met up at Game Castle, and there were like 10 or 12 of us. She was absolutely surprised, and so were we. And it was a lot of fun. The way that she did it was, we all picked a mech. I think most of us picked like a heavy mech. And the idea is you have to take on a mech of a lower weight class, the same weight class, and then if you survive that, you're going on to the heavyweight, the next class after that. So, you know, Voss wanted to pick a Timberwolf, so I let him take the Timberwolf. I took a Summoner. And I forget what my opponent was. It was probably like a Nova or something like that. But, you know, it was funny but sad, because, you know, Voss gets in his Timberwolf Prime and his opponent is a Stormcrow B, I think. It's the Stormcrow that has an AC 20 on it. So Voss engages, you know, lights it up, you know, twin LRMs, twin ER large lasers, twin medium lasers, and enough heat sinks to do it all. Lights it up, does a ton of damage to that Stormcrow, and then it's the Stormcrow's turn. Stormcrow turns, AC 20 comes up, boom, hits. Robin picks up the dice, she shakes her hand, throws the dice, and she rolls boxcars. Boxcars in the hit table for Battletech is the head. An AC 20 does 20 points of armor damage. Most mechs will have I think a maximum of 12, like 9 armor, maybe 3 structure. So turn 1, she literally blew Voss's head clean off. You could practically see, you know, one of those mid to late 2000 movies, you know, where something happens and there's the record scratch freeze frame. I bet you're wondering why, you know, these techs are having to replace the cockpits in my mech. Well, let me tell you. But in good GM fashion, Robin hit the rewind button and basically gave that headshot a mulligan. She still hit him with the AC-20, but instead, you know, she rolled and hit like a leg or something that's not immediately fatal, you know. And then Voss actually went on to defeat the Stormcrow, whatever the heavy mech was, so he actually made Star Captain, whereas I think the rest of us just got Mech Warrior. You know, we defeated our base opponents and became Mech Warriors, and that was that. So, but it was a lot of fun. And then ever since then, we've had events once a month, usually the third Sunday of the month, and we've had typically between 12 and sometimes up to 15, 18 people show up, which makes things very, very cramped, but a lot of fun, especially once the dice start flowing. Once the dice start falling and everyone's cheering and crying about what happens, it's a lot of fun. It's a very social game, and I love, you know, the setting, because you can, even if you're not participating, you can watch and cheer as people, you know, watch their mechs evaporate around them, you know, whatever the game system is. So yeah, it's just a very social game and a lot of fun in a lot of aspects. We're coming up on the mile mark, turning around, heading back pretty soon. And since I've been doing a bit more work on the YouTube channel, you know, learning different editing stuff and recording, practice recording, re-recording, testing things out, I actually have not had a whole lot of chance to play too many video games. There's a couple of web-based games that I sometimes play, but, you know, haven't played Harebrained Schemes Battletech in a while. I used to play World of Warcraft, but I unsubbed from that a while back, and then Knights of the Old Republic. I might check that out again, since I do have quite a bit of stuff with it. We'll see. I still need to figure out what I'm going to have for dinner when I get back to the hotel. You know, Orlando, as I said, has a lot of really good food. It's just a matter of figuring out what I want to get, and depending upon what time it is, but when I get back to the hotel, you know, some of the restaurants might be closed, or I might not be in the mood for it. You know, it all depends. I'm trying to keep myself more in frame and not have my head crop out too much. Well, what other gaming stuff can I talk about? Hopefully, you know, I'm passing people and they're probably looking at me like, you know, what is this weirdo doing, talking to his phone? Of course, depending upon how many people watch, you know, there could be something to that. Well, you know, the older that I've gotten, you know, after playing many different games, building several different armies, putting them together, you know, actual large-scale forces, I don't want to do that anymore. You know, that's one of the reasons that I do like Battletech, is the fact that for a classic game, 10-to-1, you're playing with a lance of mechs, that's 4 mechs, or star of clan mechs, you know, 5 mechs. I don't have to build, you know, a command unit, a heavy unit, support staff, infantry, you know, anything like that. You know, even with an Alpha Strike game, if I'm playing with a company of mechs, that's still just 12 mechs. Binary, for those clanners out there, that's just 10 mechs, 2 stars put together. So it's not like I have to have a whole bunch of stuff, In typical gamer fashion, I probably have more mechs than I'll ever use. And I've been, at least with Alpha Strike, I've been trying to play with mechs that I wouldn't play in Classic for a variety of reasons. But, that's one of the big reasons I do like Alpha Strike. I can field a ton of mechs. There's a bunch of different scenarios. And, not that I'm going after the younger crowd, but a lot of the people that are what we like to call as 40K refugees, those that are sick and tired of 40K or Games Workshop, whatever the case is, checking out Battletech. Some of them come and play for a little bit, some stay, but not always. It's just, the nature of the beast. For me, if I was to get back into a different game, I'd probably go with something like one-page rules. Something where I can use models that I might already have, not have to worry about buying brand-specific models. The rules are fairly light. Most of them are free. And then if you've got a 3D printer, if you can actually purchase STL files and, print out their specific models. But, if you've got a huge Space Marine or some sort of army like that, you've got, I think they're called Battle Brothers. It's been a while since I've looked. The gameplay is very similar, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure it's not I go, you go. It's alternating activations, which, again, I really do prefer over the Games Workshop style of one side moves everything, resolves all shooting, your opponent removes models, then they do the same thing, because chances are whoever lost initiative is about to get shafted. But, Games Workshop is still the 800-pound gorilla in the room. And while they might not have the greatest PR in the world, but the simple fact of the matter is, in a game store, they're going to have the most real estate of any of the miniature games. And if you go to just about any game store, you can find players that'll play 40K or some variant of it. Don't know about Fantasy anymore. Fantasy was a lot of fun, but it just got too much work to keep up with an actual army, keep it painted, and then, much like 40K, every few years there'd be a new army or a new codex. New rule set is what I'm trying to say, that would come out, and then, you got to retool everything. But, that's the market, that's how they want to do things, and it's working for them so far. But it's with 3D printers, some of the other smaller game companies are able to, if nothing else, design files, sell the file, sell the models that way, and you can print and tweak and do however much you want. It's all about personal preference, and for me, I'm just not up for all of that. Then I don't like the fact that Games Workshop seems to do their quote-unquote play testing with the first release of the rules in a codex. It's like they don't even test in-house, because typically it feels like within a week of a new rule set coming out, somebody's broken it and they're already having to put out a lot of addendums. And if you dropped 50, 60, 80 bucks on a new book, and all of a sudden it's you're having to print out a ton of stuff to cover the erratas, that sucks. But that's what people keep putting up with the bad behavior, so Games Workshop keeps doing it. And I don't want to trash Games Workshop too much. There are plenty of other channels that have their clickbait, hate 40K, 40K sucks, Games Workshop sucks. But I try to be more positive when I'm talking about my gaming stuff. It's like I was following the Wizards of the Coast OGL crap from earlier this year, and all I could do was shake my head thinking, who came up with this? why did they think this was a good idea? Why did they think the fans and all of the third-party publishers would go along with this? And why do they still have a job? But then I remembered Wizards of the Coast got acquired by Hasbro, and therefore Hasbro being, the monolithic giant corporation that it is, it doesn't give a crap about the players. It wants to maximize profits, and if it could take all the stuff published under whatever the new OGL was and not have to credit or pay royalties or anything to the actual creators, it was going to go ahead and do that. However, we live in the modern age of the internet where everyone has an opinion. Some people have more vocal opinions, and yeah, I thought it was a very bad idea, very short-sighted, but they appear to have moved past that. I mean, I'm not going to stop. I actually am one of those few people that appear to be actually looking forward to the 50th anniversary of Dungeons & Dragons when it comes out. I certainly will probably be picking up a set, because there is something to be said to be looking at a bookshelf of stuff that you've acquired over the years. I unfortunately had to sell or get rid of a good chunk of my gaming stuff for a variety of reasons, money being one of them, that and the Sean needed to move to Texas fund, 20 years ago. But, I'm not going hog wild like I used to, but unless something happens, I don't plan on selling any of my gaming stuff unless, something really bad happens. Fingers crossed. That's just a hypothetical. All right. So, putting it out there, if you're actually watching this video, are there any topics you would like me to ramble on about? What are some of the things that interest you? Am I way off base? Am I an idiot for doing this? Probably. But, it's kind of fun. Sure, I got some interesting looks from the people that I passed as I'm walking and talking, but this is pretty good cardio, if for no other reason. And it is starting to get dark. Some words that I never thought that I would say, especially after my previous trips to Florida earlier this year, was I almost wish I brought my hoodie. The call center actually has a very good air conditioner in it, so the office that I'm working out of is very chill. Walking around the office, it isn't too bad, but when I sit for too long, I start to cool off, and it's kind of nippy out here. Not too frigid, but I could certainly see where if I got up too early, I would definitely need a jacket of some kind. Depending upon how things go this weekend, I might end up buying a little hoodie or a windbreaker or something. I don't know if it'll get to that point, but we'll see. Oh, what else? I don't do many video games, mostly like a video game system, mostly because I operate primarily off of my laptop at home. I mean, the last video game system I think we still have is our Nintendo Wii, the original. And haven't played with that a whole lot lately. But my wife and I, we primarily keep it for exercise purposes because, it's fun to play tennis or play golf or, the other cardio stuff that you can do on that. And once you get it set up, it's a good way to, track progress, and, you can see, oh, you haven't logged in 226 days. The Nintendo Wii does kind of shame you sometimes, but, if you can get into it, it is kind of nice. Oh, looks like there's a rabbit running across the... Oh, and he's gone. Bunny rabbit racing across the trail ahead. Probably go into the river to get some water. Well, let's see if we can see him. Can I... I don't appear to actually be able to. Not sure if you can see him. Yep, he's gone. Apparently, can't flip the camera while it's recording. I think I ran into that yesterday, which is why the panoramic shot that I had was not too good after I reviewed it. But, you know, live and learn. This is rambling with Khealos, not necessarily the nature walk with Khealos, although the nature is nice. You know, my housemate, when I lived in California, he had an original PlayStation, and we played the hell out of it. Twisted Metal, there was a WWF game that was a lot of fun, where we would, you know, create wrestlers and, you know, go at it, and that was a lot of fun. And Silent Hill, you know, one of those horror games. I didn't find it too scary at first, mostly because I found it too goddamn frustrating, you know, trying to figure out the controls and not have my housemates, you know, yelling at me, you know, telling me what to do, and, you know, then all of a sudden I'm dead. Once I got into it, it was a lot of fun, but, you know, very atmospheric game. You know, looking back at, you know, the original Twisted Metal with very thick rose-colored glasses. Can't believe, you know, how good I thought that was. But then again, I also have a lot of really fond memories of, you know, Wing Commander and Wing Commander 2 back when, you know, all the fighters were sprites, not even 3D models. You know, that game changed. That was a lot of fun. And the thing I really liked about Wing Commander was, in Wing Commander 2, well, the rest of them really, is that they all had branching missions. They weren't too linear. Namely, if you failed a mission, you move on to probably another harder mission, but you could always attempt to recoup your losses and get back onto the winning victory path. A lot of games are just straight linear. You fail the mission, oh, you got to do it all over again. X-Wing for me changed the game because it was a full 3D model as opposed to the sprites, so you could actually have some great visuals. Plus, they were able to get into the Lucasfilm archive for a lot of the sound effects, you know, whether it's the laser, the blaster lasers from the X-Wings, the turbo lasers, TIE fighter sound effects, all of that. And I played the absolute crap out of X-Wing. The 2 expansions, I think. And then when TIE Fighter came out, TIE Fighter it upped the ante, because not only were the graphics better, not everything was much better. Holy shit, it is getting dark. It's a good thing I'm almost home, or home, back to the hotel at any rate. And then it had some great stories in it, especially as you played from the side of the Imperial point of view, starting off in a TIE Fighter, running patrols, scanning freighters, you know, looking for rebels or pirates or whatever the case is. And then the deeper that you got into it, you know, you joined the Order of the Empire and, you know, became a special envoy for the Emperor, performing special secret missions, which was always kind of fun. It was a good story. You know, I enjoyed the engine. X-Wing Alliance, you know, the next game in that series was a lot of fun as well. You know, because at this point you're playing from the perspective of a freelancer. You get to pilot a YT-1300 and a few other kinds of ships. But it gives you a perspective of the independent person during the, you know, Galactic Civil War, and having to, you know, deal with different factions. And X-Wing Alliance, you know, could get pretty tough, but, you know, it eventually culminated in the Battle of Endor with you piloting the Millennium Falcon, you know, going up against, you know, the trap. You know, it's a trap. And then the hardest part of that game, for me at any rate, was doing the core run into the second Death Star, and I ultimately think I had to enable some cheats to do it, because they really expanded upon it, you know, flying through the superstructure and, you know, running into all kinds of obstacles. Otherwise, you know, it's just, you know, not quite like the movie. Definitely not as easy as it looked in the movie, for sure. But it was still a lot of fun. The newest X-Wing game that's come out, I really would like to get, but I just don't think my current laptop is going to handle it. I'd like to get a new one, and who knows? If I get some more subscribers, if I get some sponsors, I might be able to afford something like that. Not that that's the main reason I'm doing this. Again, I'm doing this for fun. Hopefully meet some new people, provide some entertainment, and if people want to start throwing money at me, I will not say no. But I'm about ready to head back, so I'm going to go ahead and kill this. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you stuck through the whole thing. Sorry about some of the pauses there, as I was thinking of crap to talk about. I tried to think about stuff I wanted to discuss, while at the office, and then, and then my brain stops working. But sure, we all know how that goes. But thanks again. Day 2 in Orlando. I will hopefully catch you tomorrow.